and decision-making in disaster risk management in the Indian Ocean region. First, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Daniela Smith, and I am the Project Officer at the IORA Secretariat based in Mauritius, working on disaster risk management. I will be responsible today for moderating this webinar, and I'm glad to welcome a great panel of panelists to tell us more about this interesting topic of GIT for IORA member states and dialogue partners. So panel members, we are so glad to have you here today to share your insights and to launch this exciting training program to assist in building back better resilience communities for the Indian Ocean region. But before we begin, I have a few housekeeping notes to share with you all. Panel members and participants are requested to please remain on mute during the webinar and to please use the chat function for any queries. If you have any questions for the presenters, please note that we will have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the presentations. You are welcome to use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen on the right-hand side to drop your questions, or in the chat function. Also, if you would like to ask a live question during the Q&A, you're welcome to do so. Please just kindly use your raise the hand function on the bottom of your screen and introduce yourself and tell us where you are from. Also, if you have any technical questions, please reach out directly to Ms. Alini and Ms. Kritika in the chat function. And also, we will be dropping the official social media channels for IORA as well as UNOSAT in the chat function. So you can join us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and tag us in any tweets and tell us about your experience during this exciting training program. Also, I would just like to inform you that we will have an official group photograph of before the presentation by Mr. Deloro. So we would kindly request you to please turn on your cameras and mics, your cameras, and then to join us for the official group photograph. So without further ado, I would now like to invite our first panel member, Mr. Saravanan Murugan, who is the Director at the IORA Secretariat responsible for disaster risk management, to deliver the opening remarks. Mr. Saravanan, over to you.
Thank you very much, Daniela. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Brigadier Mr. Ajay Gangwar, Dr. Thomas, Mr. Ainar, Mr. Luca, Ms. Alice, and other distinguished panel members and participants of all IORA member states and dialogue partners, and my colleagues in the IORA Secretariat, good morning and good afternoon. I welcome you all to this training program on Geospatial Information Technology to strengthen our responses to DRM throughout the IORA region. Global heating is affecting every region on Earth, with many of the changes becoming irreversible. We must act decisively now to avert a climate catastrophe. This was the tweet of the United Nations Secretary General on August 9th, 2021, on the day the 6th assessment report of IPCC was released. Disaster risk is a stark reality for most countries, developing and developed. Rapid urbanization and environmental degradation are exposing people and assets to higher disaster risk, along with climate change, which is expected to increase the frequency and severity of extreme weather events. A report says that the annual losses due to disasters is at the rate of 250 to 300 billion USD. Saving lives and livelihoods from these disasters requires thoughtful action. A pre-agreed, pre-financed, and rule-based plan that is very professional and management decision rather than a political decision is required in managing disasters successfully. Given these rising challenges, it is ever more critical that we are prepared to deal with any type of disasters that strike us. Effective disaster risk management is required to ensure effective policies and strategies to achieve the United Nations SDGs by 2030, including the targets of the Sendai framework, which works hand in hand with the other 2030 agenda agreements, such as the Paris Agreement on Climate Change, the Addis Ababa Action Plan on Financing for Development, and the New Urban Agenda. IORA has prioritized DRM since 2011 as a priority area and established a working group on DRM under the current leadership of India as the lead coordinator for the area in 2021. This working group is currently finalizing a regional work plan focused on various areas related to DRM. In addition, IORA is also working towards finalizing the guidelines for humanitarian assistance and disaster relief and implementing its MoU on search and rescue for the region. Now more than ever, our efforts to create resilient communities are crucial, and we must establish concrete actions to protect developmental gains from the risk of disasters. The application of GIT technology provides us with the required data and structures to take more informed decisions and to make efficient use of resources. We look forward to this training program taking place under the auspices of IORA UNITAR MoU that was signed in December 2018 and with the generous support of Germany through the German Development Agency. This is a very important program strengthening our DRM agenda and collaboration. On behalf of the IORA Secretariat, I express my sincere gratitude and appreciation to UNOSAT, GIZ, and India as the lead coordinator for IORA's DRM priority area for hosting and joining us for this virtual webinar launch today. Ladies and gentlemen, alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much more. I'm confident that the learnings and insights from this training program will strengthen our collaboration and to create a more resilient IORA region. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Murugan, for the opening remarks and for providing us those insights about IORA's approach on disaster risk management. Now, I would like to invite our next panelist, Dr. Thomas Krimmel from the German Development Agency, GIZ, to deliver his remarks. Dr. Krimmel, over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm very pleased that on behalf of Germany as dialogue partner, I have the honor to address this audience here. I would like to emphasize that we are indeed very pleased that we can finally have this training workshop with UNITAR. It has been under discussion with the IORA Secretariat already for more than a year now, and it finally has taken shape. I'm very glad to see this. Germany, as a dialogue partner, sees the growing threat from climate change-related disasters as probably the biggest challenge for peace, security, and stability in the region. This is a prerequisite for world trade and prosperity for all. As the process of global warming can most probably not be stopped anymore, we have to get prepared for more disaster situations to arise. While we still have to increase our efforts for finding meaningful solutions for mitigation, we cannot neglect to search also for appropriate adaptation solutions to reduce the looming risk for loss of lives, livelihoods, and properties. This training course is one of the tools which will help us in this respect. With UNITAR UNOSAT, we have found an excellent partner who can teach us all the basic skills how to use IT technology to deal with such disaster situations. I'm also pleased with the interest this course has received from many different IORA member states and also from some other dialogue partners. This shows that the importance of using technology to get prepared for future disaster situations is commonly shared in the region. I would like to ask all of you to follow this first online training course very thoroughly. As is described in the course description, Germany will be very pleased to assist participants from IORA member states who have successfully completed this first part to also take part in the subsequent follow-up advanced training course in person, which we intend to organize for early next year in Bangkok, as the situation permits, of course. I wish us all good luck and success with this course. See you then in Bangkok. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Krimmel, for the remarks and for pointing out how important disaster risk management is and the use of technologies. Now, I would like to pass on the virtual floor to Mr. Einar Bjorgo, who is the Director at the United Nations Satellite Center, UNOSAT, to provide opening remarks. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, participants, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Einar Bjorgo, and I'm the Director of the United Nations Satellite Center, part of UNITAR, the United Nations Institute for Training and Research. It is my pleasure to be here with you all for the launching of the webinar of the training program on Introduction to Geospatial Information Technology, GIT, for operational planning and decision-making in disaster risk management. This is being organized jointly with the Indian Ocean Rim Association and kindly funded by GIT. I would like to thank everyone for joining us here during these challenging times and sincerely hope that you are all and your families remain safe and well. The Indian Ocean region frequently faces various natural hazards, and the economic and human costs of these hazards continue to rise and setting back the prospect of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. The increasing impacts of hazards can be attributed to increased economic exposure in the hazardous areas, questionable development practices that increase vulnerability. Also, sea level rise triggered by climate change will likely amplify some of these adverse impacts. The 2021 IPCC report projects that climate change is intensifying the water cycle that will bring more intense rainfall and associated flooding, as well as intense drought in many regions. Investing in disaster risk management needs to be a priority to subdue future risks, reduce existing risks, and support resilience to achieve the SDGs. But to do that, we need effective tools to embrace modern technologies for operations, policy, and decision-making. However, that may be easier said than done. It is not that easy to have a sound understanding of the subject matter. Data and outputs are needed. That is why trainings like this can be very beneficial, bridging the gap between frontier technologies and real-life challenges of disaster risk management. The content of the training is a reflection of our own experience over the last 20 years in the use of geospatial technologies to support governments and humanitarian agencies all around the globe. But learning needs to be both ways. We also want to learn from you what works and what doesn't in your own country and context. Then, as a group, we will come out of this learning experience with more clarity and confidence. The training format is self-paced e-learning with interactive lectures, quizzes, assignments to make sure participants gather and apply their newly acquired knowledge. But we also integrate discussion boards, drop-in calls to make the whole experience more engaging. Finally, please allow me to highlight that this year, the celebration of UNOSAT's 20th anniversary is marked by an adoption of a historic resolution of the Institute and for what used to be its operational satellite applications program, UNOSAT. In June this year, the United Nations Economic and Social Council approved the resolution that recognizes UNOSAT as the United Nations Satellite Center. This decision provides UNOSAT with a mandate to provide United Nations funds, programs, and specialist agencies with satellite analysis, training, and capacity development at their request, as well as to continue supporting member states such as you with satellite imagery analysis over their respective territories and to provide training and capacity development on the use of geospatial information technologies on the basis of volunteer contributions. So this is not only a recognition for us, but also an encouragement for the experts, scientists, researchers, and policymakers that have been working hard on progressing in this field. With this momentum, we want to keep working with you to make sure that this technology is easily accessible and usable where it counts the most, building a disaster resilience and sustainable future. Again, I would like to thank IORA for hosting the launch event and also want to thank GIT for making this available. I also want to wish you all the participants all the best for joining the course. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bjorgo, for your remarks and for highlighting the gap which we need to fill between technology and real-life challenges. As Mr. Murugan from the IORA Secretariat mentioned earlier in his opening remarks, the current lead coordinator for IORA's priority area on disaster risk management is the Republic of India. I now have the privilege to invite and welcome Mr. Naval Prakash, who is a joint advisor representing Brigadier Mr. Ajay Ganwar of the National Disaster Management Authority of the Government of India. Sir, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon from India. It is indeed my privilege to be with all of you in this training organized by IORA in partnership with GIT and UNOSAT. I sincerely thank you all for joining this session, overcoming all the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. As you are aware, the Indian Ocean region is known as world's hazard belt, very prone to natural and man-made hazards. The very objective of working group on disaster risk management is to promote regional cooperation within IORA on DRM and to strengthen cooperation and promoting regional cooperation and sharing of best practices with respect to disaster mitigation, relief and response, and effective recovery mechanism. The purpose of the IORA is to mutually conceive and share the domain knowledge and expertise in the field of disaster risk management towards mitigation and recovery from disasters. The challenges ahead are aggravating, considering the recent calamities causing incalculable loss to both lives and property, resulting in poverty, famine, and social unbalancing. The region of Indian Ocean is home to many island nations. The rising sea levels pose a huge threat to these countries. Though these challenges are aggravating, with the help of knowledge and information, we can cope with these impacts and mutually grow stronger. Even Sendai framework aptly highlights the importance of understanding the disaster risk as the first priority for action. While risk reduction is the objective of the DRM is the application of DRR, that is the DRR. So in this training program, I'm happy to see that the participants will be taken beyond DRR processes. GIT encompasses not just the geospatial data, but also a lot of platforms that make use of this data and provide end users with scenario for decision making. In fact, GIT is being used in all phases of disaster risk management, namely prevention, mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. In fact, understanding the efficacy of the implementation of the DRR policy can also be monitored using GIT. Currently, the data sources for the use in GIT are enormous. From cadastre data sets to latest radar data sets, the usage are innumerable. While the cadastre data sets are useful for the relief and rescue operations, radar and infrared data sets are useful for understanding the cyclone systems to penetrate through the clouds and also identifying people after a disaster events. Data sharing among the IORA members, as the spatial data generation is expensive, use of satellite and remote sensing data can subsidize the cost of data generation. Platforms like International Charter, Speech and Major Disasters are quite helpful to monitor ongoing disasters like floods, cyclones, etc. I'm sure that this webinar will enlighten you all about the immense application of geospatial information technology in operational planning, decision-making in disaster risk management, including preparedness, mitigation, recovery, and reconstruction, besides enable the emergency response agencies to respond in better and coordinated way. I'm very thankful to UNOSAT for the knowledge they are going to impart to all of you. I sincerely appreciate the GIZ for their role in strengthening IORA and its Secretariat. I express my gratitude to all the experts and wish the participants a fruitful learning from this training session and hope that you will use this knowledge back in your own countries to make the community more resilient. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Prakash, for the remarks and for telling us about the IORA DRM working group. Before we move on to our next panelist, we would now like to request all the participants to please switch on your camera for the official group photograph. Thank you very much. So next up, we have a keynote presentation on the advances and applications of GIT technologies for disaster risk management by Mr. Luca Dell'Oro, who is the Chief for Disaster Risk Management and Climate Resilience Section at UNOSAT. Mr. Dell'Oro, over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to share my presentation. 1 second. Let me know if everything goes well. Can you see now the cover slide? Yep, perfect. So good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's my great pleasure to be part of this launching session of the UNOSAT training program hosted by IORA in partnership with GIZ. I would also like to thank all our distinguished guests for the inspiring opening remarks for this event. In this keynote speech, I'd like to briefly introduce our activities and to present and highlight most recent and relevant technological advances with particular focus on Earth observation technology, as well on GIT application to improve disaster resilience. UNOSAT is an operational program of the United Nations Institute for Training and Research, and we provide the UN member states, UN funds, programs, and specialized agencies with satellite image analysis, as well with tailor-made learning solution and capacity development programs in the use of geospatial information technology within different application domains. The ECOSOC, the United Nations Economic and Social Council, has recently adopted an historic resolution that recognized our program, UNOSAT, as the United Nations Satellite Center. We are this year celebrating our 20 years of operations. UNOSAT headquarters is located in Geneva, and we have also offices in New York and 2 regional liaison offices in Bangkok and Nairobi, along with the project presence in Solomon Island, Vanuatu, and Fiji. Our operational pillars are organized in 3 main work streams. The first one is knowledge transfer and capacity development in the use of geospatial information technology. The second is in the satellite image analysis, with focus on disaster risk management, disaster risk reduction application, as well as climate resilience, human security, and human rights. We are also very active in applied research and innovation to keep abreast of new technological advances such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, and big data analytics. We have our program has more than a decade experience in strengthening the capacity of UN member states, UN agencies, international organizations, and academia throughout ad hoc capacity development activities. Our goal is to leverage the use of geospatial information technology for disaster risk reduction, disaster risk management, and other applications to develop custom-tailored solutions and to facilitate open data access. Throughout our tailor-made learning events, we reach to present more than 3,000 beneficiaries from governments, academic, and institutions, including UN agencies and regional organizations. Over the past few years, UNOSAT is more and more engaging into medium and long-term capacity development projects, for which is very important to ensure that both transfer knowledge and solutions developed are sustainable and used by governments and target beneficiaries to inform policy planning and decision making. We have recently kicked off a new 3-year project financed by the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation, NORAD. Under this project framework, we will target 8 countries in Asia and Pacific region by implementing custom-tailored technical training and awareness-raising events, along with the development of ad hoc thematic geospatial solution according to beneficiary needs. Let's have a look now to our humanitarian rapid mapping program, which is operational since 2002. Our rapid mapping service provides satellite image analysis, maps, reports, and ready-to-use GIS data following sudden onset disaster events and conflict situations worldwide. Between January 2020 to September to present, our service has covered more than 95 activations and delivered a total of 605 geospatial products and services to support humanitarian assistance in close to 60 different countries. As everybody knows, everyone knows, early stages of major disaster events are characterized by limited, incomplete, and often contradictory information of unknown accuracy related to the geographic scope and the severity of the event, the location of affected population, and then priority, where are the priority areas of intervention? Intervention is another big question, and also linked to the operational environment. What is the coordination capacity in the country, the status of service location, security, and humanitarian access? Our rapid mapping service is fully aligned. Our workflow is fully aligned within the humanitarian program cycle. And our service is well established and predictable mechanism for humanitarian organization to request a full range of satellite-derived products within the emergency response phase. Upon a request from a UN agencies or international organization or member states, our service delivers timely and reliable satellite-derived analysis for preliminary situation awareness within the 24 hours, rapid impact analysis, and more detailed impact damage assessment. We can see here now, within an emerging context, we are using for analysis a wide range of optical and radar satellite data, from commercial and scientific sensors, from free and open data platform, commercial vendors, but also the international space charter, space and major disasters, including contribution from governments and member states. Using pre and post disaster satellite very high resolution image is possible to detect the level of building damage, as shown in this example. Another important satellite images are also very useful to detect following a disaster event, location of spontaneous people gathering sites. These allow also to reach those in need of assistance. We are also looking at how to reach areas that are affected by assess the status of the humanitarian access within affected areas. Our geospatial catalog, we have a geospatial catalog available on our website that provides a full range of mapping products to support the humanitarian community with the timely and reliable information based on satellite image analysis. Our catalog offers a list of products that might be requested to our team for preliminary situation awareness and to assess the exposure and the impact, including the level of damage to critical infrastructure following a disaster event. We have here some examples that are of recent activation that delivered within IORA member states. On the left, we have a map that illustrates a preliminary impact and damage assessment that was carried out after the chemical plant blast occurred in Bangkok in July 2021. Based on satellite data acquired after the disaster events, our team identified more than 300 structures potentially damaged. On the right, we have a satellite detected surface water map near Jowar City in Somalia. And based on our analysis, we were able to identify more than 30 square kilometers of agricultural land, probably flooded, and then around 8,000 people located and living within flood-affected areas. We have also, a few years ago, in August 2020, supported the government of Mauritius and as well as the UN agency deployed in Mauritius, following the oil spill occurred offshore Point Desney. We were able to detect the dynamic of the oil spill and support cleaning up operation on the field, on the ground. Here we have also an example of the exposure and the impact that we were able to assess following tropical cyclone Eloise in Mozambique in January 2020. And we were also very active to support government in Mozambique and as well all the humanitarian agencies following Cyclone Idai in March 2019. Our rapid mapping service is a free service and that can be activated by UN agencies, UN member states, and humanitarian entities operating in line with the UN policies, following, of course, sudden onset disaster events and conflict situation. Through a well-established activation and data sharing mechanism, we ensure timely distribution of rapid mapping products, which includes satellite-derived maps, web maps, analytical reports, and data, including statistics, to support operational planning and decision-making of humanitarian actors. We have a website that can provide much more information on the way to activate our service. So let's now have a quick look to what are the new and recent developments, innovation in Earth observation and GIT to improve disaster resilience. These maps show clearly the global distribution of natural hazards. And by looking at this overview, we can easily identify the most disaster-prone regions and countries according to different types of hazards. Asia and Pacific, including countries bordering the Indian Ocean and North American region, are the geographic areas most prone and exposed to both geophysical and hydrometeorological hazards, such high magnitude earthquakes and tropical cyclones or hurricanes. According to science, and the Indian Ocean dipole seems to reappear more regularly over the last few years and in more extreme forms as sea surface temperature rise. We are observing increasingly dangerous climate mechanism in the Indian Ocean, and that has played a big role in recent disasters, including bushfire in Australia and massive floods in Africa that affected millions of people. The year 2020 and as well as this year, 2021, were the hottest year on record, despite the absence of a strong El Niño effect. According to CRED report, apart from the COVID-19 pandemic, 2020 was dominated by climate-related disasters. They were largely responsible for around 400 recorded disaster events that resulted in more than 15,000 people dead and 100 million people affected, with an economic losses of at least $171 billion. IORA countries, as we can see here, with the high population density, are more and more exposed to extreme climate variation and meteorological disasters. So the question here is how technology and Earth observation, artificial intelligence, all these new developments can help to improve disaster resilience. Recent technological advancement and innovation have led the Earth observation industry into a new era, making orbiting satellite more relevant to government, private sectors, and civil society. So what are now the driving factors improving this innovation? In June 2021, we have more than 6,000 operational satellites orbiting the Earth. Those satellites are capable of sending terabytes of images on a daily basis, enabling myriads of new applications. Big data and cloud processing technologies allow a huge amount of data to be more efficient and stored, but also analyzed through web cloud applications. We are now assisting to a market shift from selling images to customized added value services. We have also artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms that prove to be a powerful tool for analyzing this amount of data, including satellite imagery, and providing faster and more insight about our economic, social, and environmental processes at different scales. We are now came into a new space era where players, technology, and services are as diverse as it is innovative. Spatial and temporal resolution of orbiting satellites have drastically improved over the last few years. Orbiting satellites are capable of sending terabytes of images of the planet on a daily basis. Today, satellite can be as small as SIM cards and costing as little as $2,000. Here is an example of high-resolution images that now we have available satellite images at 30 centimeter resolution, and with a technology called image definition, they can be resampled down to 50 centimeter. We have here an example of a satellite image collected over Kabul airport on the 23rd of August. At this resolution, we can see the really small details in the image and counting the number of people waiting to be evacuated from Afghanistan, for example. With the recent digital transformation, 90% of all information and data that mankind has never generated in the history was created in the past 5 years. Digital data is now considered the oil of the 21st century. Tech companies able to collect, store, and process big data, all this amount of data, are now leading global markets and the way to a new digital era transformation. Cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and machine learning algorithms are very powerful tools for analyzing an incredible amount of satellite imagery, including information from many other sources, and providing better and more insight as a result of data analysis. Big data analytics is the complex process to analyze and systematically extract information from a huge amount of data, or what we call the big data, to uncover information, including hidden patterns, unknown correlation that can help inform decision making in many different application domains. The UN Secretary General calls for promoting the use of new technologies to achieve the SDGs 2030 agenda and to improve disaster and resilience globally. As part of the UN family, our program UNOSAT is fully committed, along with other UN agencies, of course, to enhance capacity of UN member states and to facilitate the access to new technologies, including the provision of quality data to inform policy and evidence-based decision-making at country level. Since 2020, UNOSAT team has implemented AI, artificial intelligence algorithms, services to match innovation needs of our end users, which are UN agencies, of course, UN member states, with a focus on humanitarian applications. Our team has developed an AI-based model for the automatic detection of surface water resulting from large-scale flood events. The AI model implemented in-house is capable to automatically ingest more than 100 radar images, Sentinel-1 example, acquired over a specific area of interest within a country to detect floods with a high level of accuracy by reducing processing time down to up to 80%. Here we have an example of a dashboard. We set up a monitoring system during the 2021 monsoon season in Asia. We've developed a fully automated dashboard for floods affected countries, which allow our end user to better visualize location of flood extent, as well as flood statistics. In this case, this dashboard was set it up and then available in the UN website for country decision maker to visualize the flood impacts. We were able to process a lot of satellite images and to estimate the number of people living within affected areas. Our technical team from UNOSAT office in Bangkok is currently supports UNESCAP in the development of the Asia Pacific Risk and Resilience Portal. This decision support system provides policymakers from selected Asian and Pacific countries with contextual analysis of a variety of hazards, risks, and vulnerabilities, including socioeconomic information, to inform countries to inform the decision making at the country level. Using different tools that are available, users can easily understand the location of risky areas at subnational level, what makes them risky, and finally, what is the problem, the vulnerability in there, and finally identify the means for reducing and adapting to those risks. This is a platform that was recently developed, and then I will share the link for you to have a look on the different data tools that were and the functionality that are available for policymakers. I ended the presentation. I would like really to thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Dall'Oro, for that very insightful presentation and on the overview of the innovations in Earth observation and GIT technologies, including the UNOSAT owl-based flood detection tool. So as you might be aware, this training is divided into two sections, the first being online and also then to be held face-to-face when traveling conditions permit. I would like to invite now our final panelist today, Ms. Alini Roldan, who is the Capacity Development Expert at UNOSAT, to provide the training program overview. Alini, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you, Daniela. Can you hear me? Can you hear me well? Yes? Okay, before I start, let me see if I can see you all properly here. Before you all start, I'd like to make a pause and let's take a deep breath. You listen to so many nice speeches and presentations. So just let's move our body a little bit. So if you're sitting in a chair, please move your neck a little bit and rotate your head. Just relax a little bit your neck to the other direction too. We are during this pandemic, working a lot from home. So just move a little bit your arms after these 50 minutes of insightful thoughts. Pay attention to your breath a little bit. So now, just send a reaction in the chat, or press the reactions just to see that you are there and awake. Fast. Okay. So I'm going to make a very quick presentation about this module. Yes, thank you. I see some reactions there. Thank you. Good to see that everyone is here. So let me share this one. So we have prepared this training with a lot of things in mind. First of all, we know that you all are very, very busy, that you have very limited time, that probably you have a lot of screen time too during this pandemic. So we try to make all the materials in this course very light and user-friendly, things that you can use in your laptop, but also in your smartphone, so you can like manage your time in a good way. So as you know, the course starts today, and you have 2 weeks to complete in order to receive a certificate from the United Nations Satellite Center. The course overview is basically this one. You have module 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you should expect around 1 to 1 hour and a half to complete each of them. So like, let's say 6 to 8 hours to finish the course, okay? So module 1, for example, is 1 hour of lecture, then you should expect 30 minutes or 15 minutes to do the quiz, etc. I'm going to show in a minute the learning management system where all the materials are there. And I see that you have posted a lot of questions already in the chat. These questions are very good. And for example, how can I get access to high resolution satellite image? Or for example, is a very high resolution satellite image that sometimes is expensive, is that the most appropriate one to use for the analysis that I want to do? Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you have a lot of free sources available. So this is a very beginner course, and we are going to cover all these questions about GIS, remote sensing, but also like basic concepts about disaster risk reduction, disaster risk management. For those who have already a background, this would be a great review. And it's also important to highlight in this training that it's not just about UNOSAT and IORA and GIZ sharing knowledge with you. It's also about creating a community that's connected, and you have the opportunity to share your knowledge also to the other members and other participants. So for that, you're going to have the discussion board that I'm going to show in a minute. And also you're going to have drop-in calls that you can just join to ask questions to the facilitators. You're going to be there available to you during 1 hour and a half, 2 times during this next 2 weeks. So you can interact with the facilitators, but also you can interact with other participants. So it's very important. It's not just something that you want you to sit in your computer and do these things. We're encouraging you to share what you know and share your questions in the discussion board, okay? So I just covered already this, but just to recap, 6 to 8 hours. Once you complete all these activities that include 5 interactive lectures, quizzes, 2 assignments, and a final questionnaire, and also these optional activities, you are going to receive a certificate of completion. This is an overview of the trainings. Luca already gave the lecture that it was just watched. Khaled is answering the questions in the chat, and he's in Bangkok, he also in Thailand based. Imra is also a trainer. She's going to join one of our drop-in calls, and will be asking, answering questions that you have related to flood, for example. She's a flood expert, and I will be monitoring the activities and the discussion boards and the chats, and talk with you whatever you have questions or have IT problems or anything related to the course. Okay. So I can show you this later to you, but before I would like to, if you have any questions, we are going to address them in a minute. Most of you, or if not, probably the late participants are going to receive the onboarding later today, people that registered on Friday. But most of you received already a message with key information to set up your username and your login information. So once you receive that, let me just open here, you are going to receive a mail that's something like this. So it's very important for you to check it today if it's working or not, and write back to me in case you have any problems, okay? So basically the email that you registered, the first part of the email, before like @gmail.com, that first part is your username for the UNITAR learning platform. So the first time that you access the platform, you click in this link here, that is in the email. You access this and you please take a look on the record your password, because if you forget your password, I will be taking care of all your passwords that you forgot and you need to change manually. Okay, so please guys, be kind to me, remember your password. So you're going to gain access to the full course later today, but please check if your username is working. So if you don't see the course yet there, don't worry, but check your username. So once you check that, you're going to see exactly what I'm seeing my screen now. Okay. You have here the course agenda that you can download. You have here instructions about how to use Moodle in your mobile app. It's very simple. Just like go to your Google Store, download this Moodle app, and you can like access the entire course in your phone. This is the discussion board that you can just ask questions to me or to other participants, to other facilitators. We have this learning needs assessment that's basically a quick 9 minutes a questionnaire that would be very nice if you could fill, and just for us to get to know more about you, your background, your expectations, okay? And these are the drop-in calls they're going to have in the next 2 weeks, okay? This is like a Mauritius time, 11 a.m., because we expect that this would be a good time both for the African countries, but also for Australia. So it's like mid of the day for India. And then you just join the call, whatever. If you just have 15 minutes, you can join 15 minutes. If you have 1 hour and a half, you join 1 hour and a half. It's completely optional, this one. Just if you have questions or if you want to know the other participants, okay? And then you see here you have all the modules, module 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you have the course evaluation form, okay? It's very easy. You just click on this here, and that's an interactive lecture that you're just going to watch. And then you click, once you finish that, you're going to be allowed to access your quiz for that. That's like around 8 questions or 10 questions to just check if you watched the lecture and if you learned the main things that are there. So this is the same thing that applies for module 2 and module 3. That's for module 4, you don't have a quiz, you have just a quick assignment. That's very easy, you're going to see. Module 5 also, you don't have a quiz, you have a quick assignment, okay? In the course evaluation, once you complete all the activities, you can give us your feedback, and your feedback will be very, very good for us to improve trainings in the future, okay? So this is the overview. If you have any questions, or always you can send me an email. I try to answer as soon as possible. If you have any questions, you can like press this chat button here that you're going to find, and you can ask me questions there or message any one of the participants or any one of the facilitators there. Once you complete these activities, also gain a few points. If you participate more, you gain more points. So let's see at the end who gets more points. Just try a little bit of a play to have doing this training. But this is the overview. Here, I'm just going to quickly show these. You see like the Moodle platform, you have all the materials there like this. So you're going to be able to access, very simple. You have this, you are going to have access to these detailed instructions on how to download in Moodle once you have access, okay? So I think that's all. We are very happy to have you all in this training. We really hope the materials suit your time, that you are going to enjoy and they are going to learn something new, that you are going to connect with more people that we don't know. And please let us know whatever you have questions, you have trouble accessing anything, and we are going to be here to assist you. Okay. So I think for this, this is for now. I give the floor back to Daniela, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Alini, for the training program overview and for sharing the details on how to join the e-learning platform. I would like to thank all our panelists for their engaging remarks this morning. And now we are going to start the question and answer session. So I see Khaled has already responded quite a lot in the chat function, but I think we have an interesting question here from Nada, maybe for Luca to answer, about what security measures are in place or to be taken into account considering for data stored in the cloud. Alini, I think we have to unmute Luca.
Can you hear me now? Sorry, I was muted and I couldn't control it. The question was relative to the security when storing data on the cloud. Yes. Well, it really depends. Of course, there are now companies, big companies that they have set it up, a huge server somewhere, and they are able to control and then to store a huge amount of data. Security, of course, is a very important issue, and then but each company and then he has his own policy for that. So I cannot answer because specific groups, or of course security is one of the most important aspects, especially when managing data that are from governments. So that's something that has to be of course carefully considered and check properly. But then I cannot answer the question, unfortunately, since there are so many different solutions. But of course security is the most important and of concern, of course.
Thank you, Luca. We also have another question for Luca from Alu Heli, asking what about the MENA region? We have big storms as well.
Sure. Yeah. I will just in my in the slide I was also, of course, because of the time, only show some examples of mainly activation along the Indian Ocean. But UNOSAT and our services and of course our project, we are involved in many different regions, from Central America, South America to Africa, and then Asian Pacific. So we work at global level, and then in MENA we have, of course, we've been very active also for recent forest fires in Algeria and then in Tunisia. I will invite you to look at our website in case you would like to have a look on about the products and the services that we have released and delivered during recent disaster events in MENA regions as well as in other regions, of course. I will share here the link with where you can have a look to our and then of course we are not only sharing map products or web maps, we also sharing all data that are basically data produced during the analysis.
Thank you, Luca. And then we have one more question from Nada, who was asking about location. So location of affected population can be segregated by population type, such as vulnerable populations or people with disabilities or elderly, etc.
Absolutely, yes. Now there are so many interesting data sets that have been created and also shared by within the context of this different initiative. This data set, for example, WorldPop, that is a spatial demographic data set which provides population distribution and population counts at 100 meter resolution. So this data set, they have the population can be disaggregated, of course, but then it depends on the application, and then also maybe the government might have, in certain cases, good data that can be also used for analysis at different scales. So.
Right, and then we have one more question from Aluheli, asking about the maps that were shown during the presentation, projecting the possible storms. Is the amount of rainfall per minute, will that also be available, the data?
Yes, there are many different satellites and also scientific initiative led by, for example, NOAA and NASA. For example, there is the Tropical Rainfall Measurement Mission that provides an incredible amount of data set of rainfall data sets that might be available for accumulated millimeter per hours, but then also accumulated over a week, over a month. So there are, a really a huge variety of different data sets available for precipitation analysis.
Thanks, Luca. And then we have one more question from Nada, who's asking who is responsible for defining the vulnerable populations, who is considered people with disabilities, and their types.
Well, vulnerability, there are different levels of vulnerability, of course. There are, structural vulnerability that is more linked to the infrastructure. And then there are also the economic vulnerability, and then the socioeconomic vulnerability, which is one of the underlying factors that should be always considered when trying to assess the level of risk. So, of course, people with disabilities, and then, of course, are considered amongst the most vulnerable ones, and then should be, of course.
There was one question whether the presentation would be made available on the Moodle platform.
Yes, it will be available also on our learning platform in the coming hours, I believe.
Thank you. Is there maybe any other participant who would like to ask a question live? I think we have one more question here for Luca before we move on. How are we using the ML and AL in flood-related disasters?
All right, that's exactly what I was mentioning during the, my presentation. That are, for example, there are many different academic, but also entities working now and developing very interesting, AI and machine learning algorithms that might be used in different phases of flood management, I would say. We at UNOSAT, we have, as I mentioned, we have recently developed an algorithm that are capable of ingesting. We are capable now to ingest, 100 of satellite images, Sentinel-1, and then this algorithm is capable of detecting the flood extent. So we are able basically to do the work that before we were doing, using, satellite, of course, remote sensing techniques, methodologies for flood extraction. Now we have trained machines that are able to recognize and to analyze the images and to detect automatically flood extent. So the processing time, of course, of doing this flood extraction is now been, is reduced, and then that is amazing because we have also checked a bit the accuracy in certain countries, and then we are also now developing and improving this algorithm by including additional sensors. So that is what we have developed in-house regarding flood response, I would say, to detect the impact of population affected following a major flood event. But there are also algorithms capable of also doing some forecasting. So that is a bit, what the powerful of this tool, machine learning and artificial intelligence algorithm, are not only able to, that is big data analytics, able to collect a lot of information and then compare different sources, and then also to predict what might be expected in terms of, for example, identify area that might be likely flooded.
Thank you, Luca, and thank you, participants, for your questions. So if you have any more questions, you can drop it in the forum discussion on Moodle, and we can learn more from each other about GIT technologies. So dear participants, and just to wrap up, the need to integrate climate change resilience efforts with technology and capacity development will be increasingly important going forward as the international community devises ways to scale up current efforts and develop solutions that are more effective at combating threats. As highlighted today by our panelists, building resilience and a sustainable future is crucial. We have increasing risk throughout the region, and as you are aware, the Indian Ocean region is known to be the world hazard belt. The use of GIT tools are an excellent method to bridge innovation with real-life challenges and to assist us to build back better resilient communities despite challenges. The time has come for us to adapt to the existing challenges, and we look forward to this training program to equip us with the required skills and knowledge, and to learn more about the current innovations in Earth observation and GIT technologies. As one of our panelists earlier said, alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much more. I would like to thank our panelists again, and also to all the participants for attending this webinar launch on GIT for operational planning and decision making in disaster risk management in the Indian Ocean region. And on behalf of the IORA Secretariat and our presenters, I would like to thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to your participation and interactions on the e-learning platform. Enjoy the rest of your day or evening and morning wherever you are based. Thank you so much.